Hello. I want to share with you an experience that changed my life forever. Something that happened many years ago. It was in 1955, just 2 days before my high school graduation. My class had planned a picnic by a nearby lake. It was a beautiful summer day, and despite the chill in the air, we set out for the water. The lake water was cold, typical of Michigan's lakes, but we didn't mind. We had lunch, played some games, and enjoyed the sunshine. Then, out of nowhere, I saw some of my friends on a floating platform about 1,500 yards away. They were waving at me, calling me to join them. I hesitated at first because the water was freezing, but somehow I decided to dive in. I ran and jumped into the lake. The cold hit me like a shock, but I kept swimming toward the platform. Halfway there, I felt a sharp pain in my abdomen, cramps that left me struggling to move. I could no longer kick, and I started splashing around helplessly. Water rushed into my mouth and throat, and I began choking. I tried to breathe, but all I could manage was water filling my lungs. I went underwater, panic setting in. My mind raced, but I had no idea what to do. I was drowning, and I knew it. My heart pounded. My thoughts became scrambled. As I surfaced for a brief moment, I looked around in a daze. The platform was still in sight, and my friends were waving, but I couldn't yell for help. My throat was full of water, and I could barely breathe. I waved back weakly, but they didn't understand. They thought it was all part of a game. And then, I went under again. This time, I didn't surface. It was so cold. My whole body was shaking uncontrollably. The water seemed to close in around me, and as I sank deeper, the light began to fade. The deeper I went, the darker it became. Soon I felt the cold, slimy weeds brushing against my feet. I slid into them, and then suddenly, I felt my body hit the lake bottom. I found myself sitting in the muck, cold and helpless. But in that strange moment, I realized that I felt a little better. At least I wasn't sinking anymore. My arms pushed against the water as I tried to rise, but it was even worse. I was stuck. It felt as though my body had been paralyzed, trapped in the depths of the lake. And then, everything inside me screamed, "I'm dying." I was fully aware of it now. I wasn't going to make it out alive. The coldness, the panic, the overwhelming sense of helplessness. It was all too much. I was sure I was done for. And then, something strange happened. There was a voice, a calm, soothing voice that seemed to come from within me, but somehow wasn't my own. It said, "Andy, you need to stop and rest for a while." At first, I ignored it. I thought, "Are you crazy? I need to breathe, just one breath of air." But the voice persisted, calm and insistent. "You need to rest, relax, and let go." I argued with myself. "I can't. I just need one breath. That's all I ask. One breath." But the voice repeated, "You really need to rest. Let go." Finally, I asked, "Okay, if I let go, will I be able to make it to the surface? Will I be able to breathe again?" The voice replied, "If you let go, everything will be fine." At that moment, I decided to trust it. "All right, I'll let go," I said, hoping that somehow it would be true. As soon as I mentally gave in, something extraordinary happened. It was like a moment outside of time, a feeling I can't fully explain. One moment, I was aware of my body, struggling in the water, and the next moment, I was somewhere else, entirely. I was no longer in the water. I wasn't even in my body anymore. I was in a tunnel. I don't remember how I got there. It was just as if I was there, in the tunnel, with no awareness of how or when I'd entered it. In that tunnel, I felt warmth, a gentle, comforting warmth. It was the most peaceful feeling I'd ever experienced. I could breathe freely again, without the sensation of choking. A wave of joy washed over me, and I was filled with unconditional love. It was a stark contrast to the fear and panic I had just been experiencing. In that instant, I was no longer scared. I looked down and saw my body, lying at the bottom of the lake. It was dark down there, but I could still see it. And strangely, I didn't care. In fact, I didn't care about anything anymore. Not the body, not the earth, not the life I had left behind. All that mattered was the overwhelming sense of peace, love, and belonging that filled me. I knew in that moment that I was home. Then, I turned and looked ahead. There, in the distance, was a light. It wasn't huge, but it was bright. So bright that it should have hurt my eyes. But it didn't. Instead, I felt myself drawn toward it, as if a giant magnet was pulling me forward. The light grew bigger as I moved toward it, and in an instant, I was no longer in the tunnel. I found myself in the center of a massive, spherical space, like a giant arena, the size of a soccer stadium, maybe even larger. I hovered there, weightless, surrounded by an incredible sense of peace and love. I was no longer afraid. I felt at home. I was at peace. The ball was inside another ball, surrounding me in every direction. All around me, 360 degrees, I saw these little motion picture screens of every life I had lived and everything I had done. It was like watching a movie of my own existence. I could see everything. Each moment, each choice, each person I interacted with. The light, though not visible, was beside me. I didn't see it, but I felt its presence, its energy, always there with me. The light and I began to communicate, sharing thoughts about all the events from all of my lifetimes. I saw every moment clearly, and it was not confusing. I understood everything. Every lifetime, every action, everything I had ever done made perfect sense. If I focused on a specific screen, I could relive that particular life. But now, as I relived it, I understood the emotions, the effects I had on others. I could feel their thoughts as I spoke with them. If I was with my family, I could know what they were thinking as we conversed. There were no secrets, no hidden feelings. Everything was transparent. I moved through all my lives, being a woman, living on other planets, experiencing it all. It seemed like I was there for months, but in Earth time, I had only been under for about 10 to 15 minutes. If it had been any longer, I wouldn't be here telling you this. Then, at another moment, timeless and infinite, I wasn't in a sphere anymore. I was in a tunnel again, but now I was much closer to the light. I was as close to it as I am to the screen on my computer right now. I stood there, and the light spoke to me. "Andy, I love you," it said. I was amazed, because it knew my name. Then, the light said, "We love you." And as it did, the background and the light itself seemed to dissolve. Suddenly, there were millions, billions, trillions of other lights, all identical to mine, all saying together, in perfect harmony, "Welcome home, Andy." At that moment, I was absorbed into the light. I became the light itself. I wasn't greater than the light, and I wasn't less than it either. I was a piece of it, a holographic part of it, but still the light. It was the most incredible, indescribable feeling I could ever imagine. As a human, it was beyond any experience or emotion I could ever put into words. In that instant, I knew everything. I understood everything. There was nothing left to question, nothing unknown. People often ask, when you were in the light, did you ask about the world, about the struggles of life? Did you ask about war or peace? And my answer is always no. There was no reason to ask any questions because I already knew everything. Everything was understood. And now, With the light, I discovered something extraordinary. The light has a sense of humor. It's funny. It's full of joy, laughter, and fun. When we were reviewing my life in that vast sphere, the light would say, "Andy, look how upset you got over that situation. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Why didn't you loosen up? Why didn't you enjoy it more? You were only there for such a short time. You should have had more fun. Why take things so seriously?" The light reminded me that Earth life is not as real as we think. It's temporary, like a play, like a movie. There are billions of actors on this planet, all playing their roles. They come in different costumes, different religions, races, genders, and personalities. But when the play ends, when the final curtain falls, all the costumes come off. And in the end, what remains is the truth. We are all the same. We are all one, part of the same light, no matter how we appear on the surface. This realization was profound, and it changed my entire perspective on life. It made me understand that the conflicts, the struggles, the differences between us, they don't define us. What defines us is the light we are made of, the love we share, and the understanding that, in the end, we are all just actors in a short-lived play, here to learn, grow, and experience life together. We are all the same. We are made of the same substance. There is no difference between you and me, no difference between you and anyone else. Here, we are simply dressed in costumes, playing different roles to experience things we couldn't in another life. We cannot experience something we already know. I cannot experience talking for the first time because I've been talking all my life. But when I first spoke, when I said my first words, it was exciting. Experiencing something for the first time is entirely different from simply knowing it. Light shows me that, and I already know this because, in truth, I know everything. But I lower my vibrations, as everyone has their own unique frequency. This is what makes each person different. I lower my vibrations to incarnate, to be born on a planet like Earth, and to live a life full of experiences. These are experiences I want to have, to be a part of. When I experience something, you experience it too. Everyone's experiences contribute to the whole. There is only one, and everything that exists, that ever has existed or will exist, is part of that oneness. It is a wonderful, exciting, and fantastic experience, and I remember being in that oneness while using this costume, this body called Andy Petro. I am of Ukrainian descent, living in the United States in 2022. Right now, I am reading this script and doing what I'm meant to do, while I'm still here, waiting for my character's role in this story to end. When it does, I'll leave this body and return to where I belong. The whole process of being in the light was incredible. It felt like I had been there for years, maybe even centuries. But in the light, there is no time. There is no hierarchy, no judgment, no separation. We are all one, not in a dull or boring way, but in an ever-evolving, joyful, and exciting manner, full of new experiences. In the light, everything is always moving forward, always fresh and new. And then, all of a sudden, the light spoke to me. It said, "Andy, you have to go back." I replied, No. You've got the wrong person. I'm not going back." But the light said, "Andy, you are going back." I protested again, saying, "Didn't you hear what I said? There's no reason for me to go back to that planet. I'm home." The light repeated, "Andy, you are going back." And then, when I heard the word back, the K in back hit me deeply. I felt myself being shoved back into my body. It was the most horrible feeling I could ever imagine. The most exhilarating experience I could have ever imagined was when I left my body and entered the light. But the most horrible experience was being shoved back into it. I didn't want to be there, and I still don't want to be here, but I am doing what I must. As I hear all this, I realize that I am lying on the sand, on my stomach. My head is turned to the side, and people are pushing on my lungs, trying to get the water out. This was before CPR was widely known, back in the 1950s. They're trying to help me, and I cough the water out. By the way, I never lost consciousness. From the moment I left my body at the bottom of the lake until I returned to it, lying on the sand by the lake, there were no blank spots. It was a continuous stream of consciousness. My body had already begun to fade, ready to become food for the fish. But I wasn't there. I was in the light, where everything was perfect, timeless, and boundless. When I came to, they had already found my body. I don't even know who found it. And honestly, I didn't care. At that moment, I had no concern for my body at all. All I cared about was being in the light. I had felt it, the incredible light. So when I came back, they asked me, "Andy, tell us what happened. What did it feel like to drown?" I said, "I can't remember everything." And that was my first big lie. I told them, "I remember nothing. It's all a blank." But that wasn't true. The vivid details I'm talking about right now happened almost 70 years ago. And as I speak about it now, I still feel the same emotions I felt in 1955 at the bottom of the lake. I've relived this experience thousands of times, and it has never changed. The joy, the ecstasy of being in the light, it's beyond words. You can't describe it with language, but everyone will know it because everyone will experience it. We all come here, we all go back, and we do it over and over again in different forms, in different galaxies, on different worlds. It's a never-ending cycle. So, I got up, and then I thought to myself, I can't tell anyone about this. For almost 30 years, I didn't speak a word of it. In 1955, there wasn't even a word for what I had experienced. The term near-death experience didn't exist until the late 1970s, when Dr. Moody coined it. I didn't know what to call it, and I didn't feel comfortable telling anyone. It was just this thing that had happened to me, and I couldn't make sense of it. But then, 25 years later, something happened that changed everything. I was returning from a business trip, and I saw a book on the shelf, Life After Life. I didn't even hesitate. I picked it up, bought it, and slipped it into my coat pocket without even opening it. When I got home, I had dinner, spent time with the kids, and once everyone went to bed, I took the book out. I told my family, I'm going to read this book, so let me have some quiet time. I sat down in the quiet, opened the book, and started reading. I didn't stop until 3 or 4 in the morning. I couldn't put it down. As I read, tears started flowing. I knew, deep in my soul, that I wasn't crazy. All these years, I had struggled with cognitive dissonance, trying to forget something I couldn't forget. I had been so afraid to talk about it because I felt like no one would believe me. It was an agonizing 25 to 30 years of confusion. But now, I knew. I wasn't crazy. That was the most incredible feeling, knowing that I wasn't alone, knowing that what I had experienced was real. The things that had never made sense to me, about life, about what I had been taught growing up, suddenly clicked. Once I realized this was a near-death experience, things started coming back to me. My memories became clearer, sharper. It was almost like a floodgate had opened. And still, I kept wondering, when would I go back home? I had to go back. That was always my deepest yearning, but I knew it would happen soon. In the meantime, I made a conscious choice. Every day I choose to find joy. Why am I here? It doesn't matter. What matters is that I am here, and I want to make the most of it. I want to help people. I want to help them feel better about themselves. And I want them to know that there's a home out there, a home I've been to, and I'm ready to go back to. I carry my return ticket with me at all times. I've known it for a long time now. When the flight is ready, I'm on it. This is what it means to me. It's a happy process. I'm waiting, yes, but it's a good kind of waiting. Waiting to return home. It's so clear to me, so simple, and it brings me peace. I like being happy. I like being playful, being silly. I like experiencing joy, because when I remember the light, I remember that the light was a place of joy. It was filled with laughter. In fact, I often joke that the light is like the greatest stand-up comedian you could ever imagine. The light told me, the reason I'm here is to experience joy. And the reason we all exist at all is to experience joy. It's that simple. Life doesn't have to be complicated. It comes down to choosing love over hate, always. While I'm here, I try to choose love more often than hate. I can't do it all the time. After all, I'm human. But I do my best to choose love. I choose to smile instead of being angry. It's not about doing grand, profound things. It's about those simple acts of kindness, making someone else happy. Because here's the thing. When I make someone else happy, I make myself happy. When I hate, I'm hating myself. When I hurt someone else, I'm hurting myself. There's no separation between us. We are all one. We are all one in the light. I am just a holographic piece of that light. My vibration is low enough that I could be born on a planet called Earth, in a solar system, in the Milky Way galaxy between the years 1937 and 2022, right up to today. And that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Do you love meaningful Bible stories? Top 7 Bible Stories channel will bring you inspiration and peace every day. Don't forget to like and share your thoughts in the comments section. Your sharing is the motivation for us to bring more stories. Top 7 Bible Stories. Good stories, beautiful meanings.